learning target 16 and 17. In learning target 16, we're still solving triangles. The problem is the information that's given to us, you cannot use to solve. You can't use to solve any law of sines proportion, because if you look at the two examples I've given you today, like the first one, you have 3 side measures. You have to have at least one angle measure to use law of sine, right? Because you have to have like A over sine A or something. So I don't have any angle measures, so I can't use law of sines there. On the second example, I have 2 sides and the included angle. Well, if I have 2 sides and the included angle, I don't have anything that corresponds to each other, so I still can't use law of sines, right? I'd have to have side C in order to use angle C in law of sines. So I cannot start either of these using law of sines. Have to use law of cosines. So here are the 3 formulas for law of cosines. The top one is the one on your formula sheet. Okay? They're all the same. It's just a matter of the variables used. Pretty much if you were going to recreate the other 2 from the first one, you just need to know that whatever the side is that you're trying to solve for on the left-hand side has to match the angle cosine on the right-hand side, and then the other letters just switch out in between, the other variable. Okay? So, on the first question, to solve the triangle, so I'm going to find all 3 of the missing angles. In order to find those missing angles, I have 3 sides to use. It doesn't matter what angle you find first. Considering you only have this top formula on your formula sheet, I'm just going to use that one and find angle A. Okay? So, I have 32 squared equals 38 squared plus 46 squared minus 2 times 38 times 46 times the cosine of angle A. I have every bit of faith in all of you guys that you can use formulas, and I know you can do this. Here's the problem. Every single year I teach this, it starts out wonderfully and great. And then you guys decide you can do things that violate the order of operations, and then you get them wrong. So don't make silly mistakes. Make sure that you're taking your time. You're solving for this cosine A part down here. So if you need to treat that like an X, whatever you need to do in your mind so that you don't mess up the other parts of this. Okay? So, that being said, we do 32 squared. That's 1,024. Now, I'm not going to do every single little detail of this or we'll be here all day long. So, if we're looking at this, I can combine these 2. Would you agree? Yes, so I'm going to go ahead and do that in the calculator. So, 38 squared plus 46 squared. And that's 3,560. Minus, again, I can multiply all of these together. Save myself some time here and try to save some steps. 2 times 38 times 46 is 3,496. Okay, this is the problem generally then. Where I said you guys would mess up order of operations. Do not, under any circumstances, subtract 3,560 minus 3,496. You can't do it. All right, right now you have an equation that pretty much is just like having 3 minus 4x, right? You can't subtract 3 minus 4x because it's a variable. Same thing here, you've got cosine A. So do not subtract these numbers. Someone's going to do it on the quiz, I know they will. But I'm telling you right now, don't do it. So don't subtract these numbers, okay? So all we can do now is we can solve for the variable, just like any other equation you guys have ever solved. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract 3,560. We get negative 2,536 equals, don't forget this negative, negative 3,496 times the cosine of A. So we need to divide. So I get positive 0.7254. And if I want to figure out what that angle is, I need to use inverses. And you shouldn't have to round in your calculator if you're using your graphing calculator. So we get 43.5. We can round at the end. So everyone follow what I did. You don't have to do this again though. Okay? Now you have angle A, and I have side A, and I have these two other missing angles. I can use law of sines now, right? I have the right information. I can use law of sines to find another missing angle. Then to find the last one, I can just subtract from 180. So I know this is like a lot of like steps and work, and you have to keep some things straight. So you don't have to do this more than once. You do it once, then you do something else. Okay? So we're going to set up law of sines. I'm just going alphabetically. It honestly doesn't matter. You can do B or C next. But I know that 32 would go with angle A, so that's sine of 43.5. You guys have done law of sines a lot. Just remember that with cosines, we've got cosine, and with sine, we've got sine. So when you start taking inverses and stuff, make sure you keep that straight about which trig function you're using. Okay? And that equals, we'll do B over the sine of B. So 38 over the sine of B, right? So I can cross multiply. So for sine of B, we get 38 times sine of 43.5 divided by 32. So 0.817. And then again, we'll have to use inverses to get the actual angle. And so I get 54.8. So now I have angle A and angle B. If I have two angles, I can find angle C, right? I can just subtract from 180. So angle C, 180 minus 43.5 minus 54.8. 81.7? We've got things building on each other, right? You want to be able to use law of sines. It's easier than law of cosines, right? But you have to make sure you have the right information. Questions. What can I help with at this very moment? If not, I can always help later. Okay. Any other questions on this problem? Do you want me to set the next one up and do it with you, or do you want to do it by yourself? Set it up? Okay. Everyone go with this one. Can I erase the stuff I've got on here? Yes? Okay. All right, on the second one then. I still can't do the law of sines. I have an angle this time, but I have angle C and I don't have side C. So I can't set up a ratio, so I can't do law of sines. So I have to do law of cosines. So in this one, we have cosine C, so we're going to use the C squared version. Again, if you were looking at your formula sheet, you could change that all out. It wouldn't be that difficult to do. Okay? So this time we're solving for a side. So we have C squared equals 25 squared plus 30 squared minus 2 times 25 times 30 times the cosine of 160 degrees. Now this one should be better because you can type it all in your calculator, right? You don't have to like remember to not subtract things and stuff. So on your calculator, I'm going to do this in two pieces just because if not, I'll type something wrong. So 25 squared plus 30 squared is 1,525. And then 2 times 25 times 30 times the cosine of 160 negative 1,409.54. So on this, there's two things you could have done there. You can either bring down your negative and just do positive 2 times everything, or you could go ahead and do negative 2 times everything, and you'll get a positive 1,409, so just remember to add it. All right, so don't multiply by negative and then put the negative back in. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so we've got 1525. So we end up with 2,934.54. So I'm not rounding at any point in this, right? I'm just bringing my answers down in my calculator. So we take the square root. We're looking at a side measure, so we're only concerned about the positive version of the square root. We get 54.2. Now that I have side C, what could I do? Because I've got to find angle A and angle B still. So I can do law of sines now, right? So I can do, I'm just do alphabetical again. So I've got 25 over the sine of angle A equals 54.2 over the sine of 160. Do you want to do that, or can I just tell you the answer? Save us some time. And so we get 9.1 degrees for A if you cross multiply and solve all that. Use inverses. And so then to find angle B, we would just do 180 minus 160 minus 9.1, and you get 10.9 degrees. Questions on what I did on that one, or the one before? We're using law of cosine, so we have another option to start off with, and then we can go back and use other things we've already talked about. Okay. Anything about 16? All right, then we can do 17, and 17 is not difficult from here. Okay? So 17 is another area formula. So in learning target 13, we talked about an area formula. If you had two sides and an included angle, you didn't have to find like half the base times the height. You could do half of times the two sides times the sine of the included angle. Well, what if you're given three sides to a triangle? Okay, so if you're given three sides to a triangle, we can use this formula. And you notice there's an S in this formula 4 times. S would be the semi-perimeter, and it's pretty much a half of the sum of all the sides. Okay, so if you have the three sides, you can use both of these to fill in this equation. You're pretty much plugging and chugging, right? So that, again, is also on your formula sheet. It tells you the area formula, and then to the side it says what S equals. So at no point just memorize what S is or anything like that. It's all in there for you. Okay? So I'm going to just do this first example. I've got three sides. Instead of trying to figure out what it looks like and drawing a picture and finding the altitude and all that jazz, I can just use this formula. So you need to find the semi-perimeter first. So it's a half of 2 plus 7 plus 8, which is a half of 17, which is 8.5. And so then to find the area, we have, and they're using K for area because we're using so many capital A's for angles. That's why they keep using K, but you guys can use A for area. I think you know the difference of what you're doing. So we've got 8.5 times 8.5 minus 2, 8.5 minus 7, 8.5 minus 8, 8.5 times 6.5 times 1.5 times 0.5, and then take the square root of that. We get 6.4 units squared. Questions about how to do this area formula? On the quiz, it's not going to be hard to separate these. You can only do one area formula if you have an angle, right? You have to have two sides and include an angle. The other area formula only uses three sides, so you'll be able to distinguish which one you're using. Same thing with law of sines and law of cosines. If it says to solve a triangle, well, depending on the information given to you, depends on which one of those you can use. Okay? Any questions I can help with right now? All right, then learning target 16 and 17 homework will be due tomorrow. The answers are on the corner of my desk in my binder if you're struggling.